mean, really whatever you want. So.
Which I read. Somebody, I cannot remember who did a detailed interview with you too about how you met and how you met in England.
Europe. Right.
And,
yeah, in the Netherlands.
And during a show that you were starring, you were playing banjo.
Banjo and guitar in the orchestra.
And it was I was riveted. I read this and I was like, well, I have nothing left to ask them.
1984.
I was 3.
Well, you were 3, us and George Orwell.
George Orwell was dead, but we
But you've done so much, and you had when you did GLaDOS, you had no idea about.
I didn't even know it was a game. I didn't really know what it was. It was, I had worked for Valve before because I had done Overwatch in Half-Life 2.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But
with the nature of GLaDOS, it could have been like, just the corporate computer voice that they might have used to,
like, and certainly at the beginning of the recording sessions for Portal, and there weren't that many, I just thought that I was the player prompt.
Okay.
That I was the person that was, helping the player through the game.
Now turn right. Now turn left.
Yeah, to help through the game. And at one point, I had to ask Eric Wolpaw, the principal writer. I said, I don't understand this. What's happening here? And he said, "You are lying to the player."
It's a lie. Just a lie.
Yeah, lying to the player. So that was like, oh, okay.
That's incredible. I mean, GLaDOS is one of so my main question is, how did you feel when you realized you were playing psychotic robot?
Oh, I thought it was hysterical. I thought it was hysterical, and the whole recipe for the cake. Mm-hmm. Eric showed that to me, and with the fish in it, and I, once I realized that I was teasing people, even in a kind of hateful way. Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize that I was teasing people at first.
Yeah.
I thought I was just, doing it at face value. And then I got the point that I'm not telling the truth. I'm
not a nice person.
Not a nice person. and I didn't even know that the point of the game was to destroy me at the end. I didn't know that. So it all came as a big surprise to me.
And then they wouldn't start Portal 2 without you.
No, they wouldn't, because the visual creators and the programmers, etc., were so used to my voice in Portal, because they did have a stopgap. For Portal, they had the computerized voice as a stopgap voice. Mm-hmm. They were going to use it, but then they realized it was copyrighted, and it was cheaper to hire an actor.
Exactly.
So. But by Portal 2, and speaking as a writer, I know exactly what the personality of GLaDOS so moved the game forward that they really couldn't tell if something worked if they just had some coder reading the lines. They needed
the personality,
the absolutely snarky, dark, ugly personality of my.
It had to be me. But over a period of 10 months, I recorded that at least every 2 weeks, and the story changed. Mm-hmm. I mean, they tried this and tried that and rewrote the whole story, and they kept, Jay Pinkerton and Eric Wolpaw kept talking about, Act 1 and Act 2 and Act 3, and they really thought of the game in the structure of a play.
Mm-hmm. And you helped guide how people interact in video games, how people interact with voice actors.
I'm not sure what.
One of the interviews that I read, you went in to do voice acting, and they didn't give you your motivation or what you were doing or anything, and they had to keep calling the writers to explain to you what was happening in this.
Early on, I mean, you can imagine. Early on, games were produced by people like you guys, who just like drawing mazes and making games and stuff, and they had this new computers to play with, right? They had never been to drama school. They'd never directed anybody. They had no idea what to do with actors. And when when you write for actors and when you direct actors, you need to realize that the sentence WHAT question mark can be read a million different ways depending on what. You know, I mean, it just depends on what's going on. And so it was so hilarious that when they called me in for Betrayal at Antara, first they said, "Yeah, we really like that Sean Connery thing you did. You know, that Welsh thing." And I didn't have the heart to tell them that Sean Connery was Scottish, but anyway, you know, I said, "Oh, thank you."
They're young.
And yeah,
everybody's younger than us.
Yeah. And we got to this one part where I said, and they kept calling the writers every time I had a question because they weren't even there. And they got to this one place where my line was "Goodbye, son." And I said, "Well, why am I? Is he leaving forever? I mean, what's going on?" And they call up the writer. And they talk, get back. Okay, so this is where the game branches. Your son is either going down the street to buy some bread and he'll be right back, or he's going to step through a trans-dimensional portal and go to another universe. You're never going to see him again. So could you read it in a way that would work either way? And I said, "Goodbye, Sean." Yeah, that's great. So yeah, but really the learning curve was very steep. By the time I was working with Richard Rouse, who was writing Church in the Darkness that we're working on now, in The Suffering 1 and 2, the writers were there. They were both hilarious maniacs, and you know, it was this big improv session. And so you really knew what was going on. And then when we started working with Valve, and of course I started working for Valve before Ellen did, and they auditioned. Of course, we have different last names, so they hired us both to do Half-Life 2 without knowing that we were married at all. And then they hired us both to do Team Fortress 2 without knowing that we were married at all. And about halfway through Team Fortress 2, they actually called us in on successive sessions at the recording studio. And Ellen said, "Oh, you're going to be working with my husband next." And I went, "Who's your husband?" And so then they had to have us be the bickering married couple at the end of Left 4 Dead because that was just too funny.
Yeah.
So
we're very good at that.
Which was interesting when I was looking into your credit history. I had realized I have not only heard your voices a million times, probably hundreds of millions. Left 4 Dead is probably my favorite series of all time. And I'm reading this like, "It's them! It's them! It's that freaking houseboat guy! The characters together!"
Right.
And the witch that startles the crap out of me every single time. And and I'm going in further to it, I played a game that you did the voice of that you just mentioned that almost never anybody's ever heard of. I wrote a character whose name was Antara Condor. After Betrayal at Antara was one of the first games I've ever played. My dad bought it on the computer. And when I was reading through it, I was like, "Shut up." And I was like, because I still have this, you can't play it on a sense system anywhere.
Right.
But I still have this CD, because my dad passed away, so I kept a lot of stuff like that. He's the one who got me the gaming.
Gotcha.
So you still have it. And people are like, "Just throw it out. Don't touch the game. Your life is worth less than that CD."
I wonder what's going to happen because, we have the history of computer gaming is, in geologic terms, relatively short.
Yes.
But
already
we've already lost the technology to play some of these games.
Well, that's why I know a lot of games now are remastering.
Right. Like Myst, you can play on your iPhone.
Myst, I played Final Fantasy 1 on my tablet the other year and finally beat it for the first time.
Oh, good.
So there's so many older games that, like, I'm hoping, because they re-brought the King's Quest series. They brought that back to life. And I'm like, what about these old games, the old point-and-click games like Betrayal at Antara, that people
Because
love.
it's very hard because, in order to, because they can't compete with new games. I mean, you don't have fully animated people
completely
running around.
voice acted.
Right. And it takes time to update them. So, it was nice when they did Myst and Riven because I could go back and play those again on my phone. But a lot of them were just lost.
Yeah. Which is a shame because another article that I was reading that you said one of the things that people are trying to convey now is that video game is an art form. It is its own brand new art form, and it combines so many different other art forms, like the graphic artists, the music, the writing. Some stories in video games to me have been as emotional as a book that I read.
Well, when you add the aspect that the person experiencing the story is the central player in the story and is determining the story. It really increases the impact when you're making a moral decision that has a visual impact on the other characters in the game that you come to love or hate or whatever.
Exactly.
And I think that one of the wonderful privileges for us working with Valve and with working with Richard is this interest in a literate game, in a game that pushes the person in the game to make decisions, to think about things in a profound way.
Exactly.
And I think that there's going to be more and more of that, even as there is more and more of just light, fluffy shoot 'em ups or goofy or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that it is the new art form of the 21st century.
And we need to preserve it, because you think about the history of film, and so many of those early films are just lost forever.
Yeah.
When you think that we have papyrus from 6,000 years ago.
But we lost an entire season of Doctor Who.
Yeah, right, exactly.
What happened?
Priorities.
How could you? But you guys are doing a new game, and I'm really interested on your perspective, because you guys are starting from the seedling that is Church in the Darkness. Now, how is that different from starting at the first step, as into coming into a game much later?
Well,
and just handing your line.
Richard Rouse talked to us. We had meetings about the characters, Rebecca and Isaac Walker.
Which you portray a psychotic couple very well. I just want to.
Well, we're method. We've been working on this for 30 years, so yeah. I mean, Richard worked with me in Suffering 1 and 2, and called me up a few years back, said, I have this idea for this really voice actor-driven game. And I said, this and the moral ambiguity, which is in my own writing and in Dancing with Eternity, it's all about putting characters in. Well, what should I do?
Exactly.
And that kind of thing. The Church in the Darkness is very much a do I draw my gun or do I not draw my gun?
It is procedurally generated.
She is so proud that she has one nerd phrase.
Whatever makes you happy.
That's right. But yeah, and what that means, I'm sure nerds know, is that the player's choices actually determine how the story goes and how it ends. And for us to get into on the ground floor to help him develop the characters, to have input, because we both lived through that time. I mean, Richard was alive, but he was fairly young, but we were both aware of all the cults going on in the 70s, and so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. The cults or the game?
The cults, not so much.
Okay.
The game,
No, but he actually spent some time at a commune.
Okay.
I never did. I was just, singing.
Well, calling a commune outside Boulder, Colorado, anything other than a group of hippies living in the mountains is you'd have to go a ways to make that.
Commune?
It's a commune, but it's not a cult.
No.
I mean, we didn't kill a single goat. I can tell you that with security.
Well, this has been an absolute delight. I cannot thank you both enough for sitting down and talking to me.
We're so pleased to talk to you and meet you, Crymson.
Thank you. And when is your game being released?
Later this year, they tell us. Although we are lowly voice actors, we don't get
2017.
Okay, I will make sure that I pick up a copy.
And there are going to be
That's the other fun part, is that Richard knew that Ellen sang songs at the end of Portal. He knew that I was a composer, and he said, listen, why don't you write some songs for the game? And so I've written 4, and we're going to do 4 kind of spirituals, because it is about this religious cult. And we can play one of them for you now.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, cool.
Are you guys ready to record?
Sure.
Did you sign?
We'll give you a second to get set up, do whatever you need to do.
Sure. I'm very jealous. I love your.
John buys all my clothes. Otherwise, I look like a Republican.
I'll give you my number for shopping. Because this is, besides that, I do this shopping at 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm depressed and maxed out credit cards. And my husband's like, when are you ever going to wear that dress? And I'm like,
Anywhere.
wear it anywhere.
If you're shopping.
No,
I have no taste.
just very conservative. She doesn't realize how snazzy she can be. And I look at her as, my blank canvas.
Are you guys set?
All right.
Good? Okay, cool. So this is a song, it was a challenge to write a song that is going to come at the end of a game where perhaps everybody drank Kool-Aid and all died and stuff like that. And it might be the player's fault. So, but I wanted to write something that Isaac Walker, the head of this cult, might have written, and that he and Rebecca might have sung out in the woods. So this is called The Song of Forgiveness, but here we go. We almost look behind and see if we can see what lies inside. At the falling of the light, we hope that we can find the path that we walked without a guide.
For the points along the way, places where we lie, the causes we have lost and we have won. Was it worth a single day to soothe our foolish pride and do the many things that we have done? And we're lost along the way.
Lost along the way. All the options we weighed, all the promises betrayed to bring us home. Look into the sun to find the face of God. We're lucky if we keep from going blind. If we stand or if we run, we can't improve the odds. The path is all we'll ever hope to find. And we're lost along the way. Searching every day for the place, for the way to bring us home.
When the answers find your eyes like riddles in the mist, you struggle to believe we're not alone. All the sophistry and lies eternally persist. However, will we find our way back home?
And we're lost along the way.
We are lost along the way.
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 Wow, that was
Well, think how you'll feel if you hear that song after you just caused everybody to drink Kool-Aid.
even better.
Even better.
Or worse, depending on your moral compass.
Exactly.
Do we have a moral compass?
I don't have a moral compass.
No, I actually beat the demo. I beat the demo of the game by not using the gun at all.
Oh, you played
I
the game?
beat
Just
the
the demo's
demo.
up, you can play it on
I
Steam.
beat the demo.
I actually have a moral sextant, which I believe is, I think it's the only one in existence. I'm very proud of it.
Thank you so much. I could talk to you two for hours.
Oh,
Great.
Crymson,
Well, we
thanks.
want to talk to these other folks too, so great to meet you. And
So,
we'll
what is
next
your name?
Thanks so much for watching. If you were entertained by that video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more wacky, zany content here at Real Women of Gaming. And, here are 2 randomly selected videos that YouTube thinks you enjoy. There's this special awesome one over here on the left, and there's this crazy wonderful one over here on the right. So you just click on one of them. Just click on one of them.